I used to say my brother was the smart one. Ethan, older by 4 years, had that effortless charm that made people lean in when he spoke. Teachers adored him in school. He was the kid who could talk his way out of detention with a grin and a well-timed apology. Neighbors praised him for mowing lawns without being asked, and Mom. She always said he had a silver tongue, like our dad did before he left us when we were kids. Me. I was Alex, the quiet one. The hard worker who preferred actions over words. I believed in loyalty like it was etched in stone, especially when it came to family. Blood was supposed to mean something unbreakable. Growing up in that small house on Maple Street in our quiet suburban town felt like a safe bubble. It was a modest 2-story with peeling blue paint and a backyard where Mom planted roses every spring. Ethan and I shared a room until he hit his teens and convinced Mom to convert the attic into his space. I didn't mind. I liked the ground floor, closer to the kitchen where Mom baked chocolate chip cookies on rainy days. We'd sit at that old oak table, the one with the scratches from our toy cars, eating cereal in the mornings while she hummed old jazz tunes. Ethan was the storyteller, spinning tales about adventures we'd never had, making Mom laugh until tears streamed down her face. I was the listener, content to soak it all in. But life has a way of cracking those bubbles. Dad walked out when I was 6, leaving Mom to raise us alone. She worked 2 jobs, days at the local diner, nights as a bookkeeper for a small accounting firm. Ethan, being older, helped more at first, but as he grew, he started chasing his own dreams. He got into sales early, charming his way into a job at a car dealership right out of high school. Me. I went the trade route, becoming an electrician after community college. Steady work, good pay, no frills. I thought that's what family did. We supported each other. When Mom got sick, that belief was tested. It started with fatigue, then the cough that wouldn't quit. Lung cancer, the doctors said. Stage 3. She fought it for 2 years, chemo, radiation, the works. Ethan visited sporadically, always with excuses about work trips or client meetings. I was the one who drove her to appointments, held her hand during the bad days, and made sure the bills were paid. "You're my rock, Alex," she'd whisper, her voice frail but warm. Ethan would swoop in with flowers and promises, making her smile before vanishing again. When she passed, it hit like a freight train. I was 28, Ethan 32. The funeral was a blur of sympathetic faces and casseroles from neighbors. The house felt empty without her laughter echoing through the halls. She left behind that small house, worth maybe $250,000 in our inflating market, and a savings account with about $80,000, scraped together from years of scrimping. Nothing extravagant, but enough to give us both a leg up. A stable start, like she always wanted. I was grieving too hard to think straight. Nights blurred into days. I'd stare at her empty chair at the kitchen table, the one where she'd sip her tea and read the paper. Ethan, ever the smooth talker, stepped in. "I'll handle the paperwork, Alex," he said one evening as we sat in the living room, surrounded by boxes of her things. "You don't need this stress right now. Focus on healing." His voice was steady, his hand on my shoulder firm. I nodded, grateful. Why would I doubt him? He was family. Big mistake. One I'd replay in my mind 1,000 times. A month later, he sat me down at that same kitchen table. The air smelled of stale coffee. I hadn't bothered brewing a fresh pot. He slid a stack of papers toward me, his fingers tapping nervously on the wood. "I need you to sign these," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. "It's just to finalize the estate stuff. Power of attorney transfers, that sort of thing. Makes it easier to split everything evenly." I skimmed the top page, legal jargon about beneficiaries and assets, but my mind was foggy. Grief does that, it clouds everything. "You sure this is right?" I asked, pen hovering. "Absolutely," he replied, flashing that trademark smile. "Trust me, bro. We're in this together. I signed every page, without reading the fine print. 3 weeks after that, I came home from a long shift wiring a new office building. My muscles ached, my boots caked in dust. I turned the key in the lock, and it didn't budge. I tried again, jiggling it. Nothing. Panic flickered in my chest. Maybe the lock was jammed. I knocked, called out Ethan's name. No answer. I pulled out my phone, dialed him. Voicemail. Texted, "Hey, lock's changed. Can't get in." Minutes ticked by. Then his reply, "You signed your share over. The house is mine." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. Laughed, actually, a sharp, disbelieving bark. This had to be a joke. Ethan loved pranks, right? Like the time he hid my bike in high school and pretended it was stolen. I called again. This time, he picked up. "It's not a joke, Alex," he said, his voice cold, detached. "You transferred your rights to me. I own it now. You need to find somewhere else." The world tilted. "What the hell are you talking about? Mom left it to both of us. You signed the papers. It's legal. Don't make this harder than it has to be." He hung up. I pounded on the door until my knuckles bled, but no one came. Neighbors peeked through curtains, but I was too ashamed to ask for help. I grabbed what I could from the garage, my tools, a duffel of clothes, and drove to my friend Mike's place. He let me crash on his couch, no questions asked at first. But as I scrolled through old photos on my phone, Mom in the garden, Ethan and me as kids building forts, I felt the betrayal sink in like poison. The worst part wasn't losing the house. It was realizing my own brother had planned it. Every, "Don't worry, I got this." Every fake hug after Mom's funeral. Every fake smile over shared meals. He'd been scheming while I grieved. How long? Weeks? Months? Had he looked at Mom's will and seen dollar signs instead of legacy? I felt stupid. Small. Angry in a way that made my hands shake and my vision blur. For days, I paced Mike's living room, ranting about lawsuits, about confronting Ethan with a baseball bat. Mike talked me down. "Anger without a plan is just noise, man," he said, echoing something Mom used to say. "Get smart about this." So I got quiet. And I started digging. While crashing on that lumpy couch, I picked up extra shifts, overtime wiring commercial buildings, even some under-the-table gigs on weekends. The money helped, but more importantly, it gave me structure. Nights, when the apartment was silent except for Mike's snoring, I hunkered down with my laptop. Public records first, county clerk's office online portal. I pulled the deed to the house. There it was, transferred solely to Ethan, dated right after I signed those papers. But something nagged at me. Mom had emailed me bank statements a few months before she died, just in case, she'd said. I scoured my inbox, found them. Compared to what Ethan had shown me post-funeral. Discrepancies. Small at first, a transfer here, a withdrawal there. Then bigger, a lump sum moved after her death, when accounts should have been frozen pending probate. I remembered Ethan mentioning he'd handled some transfers to avoid fees. But forging? That crossed into criminal territory. I dug deeper, requesting copies of documents from the bank. It took weeks, but when they arrived, there it was, Mom's signature on a transfer form dated 2 days after her passing. I pulled out an old card she'd signed. Her looping M was precise, elegant. This one? Sloppy, rushed. Not hers. Ethan hadn't just tricked me. He'd committed fraud. Big fraud. I didn't confront him. Didn't warn him. Warning would give him time to cover tracks. Instead, I took everything, papers, emails, statements, to a lawyer. I found her through a referral from a coworker, Sarah Klein, a no-nonsense estate attorney with a reputation for taking on family disputes. Her office was in a strip mall, cluttered with files and smelling of strong coffee. She listened as I laid it all out, her eyes narrowing behind wire-rimmed glasses. "This is messy," she said finally. "But winnable. The documents you signed? We can challenge them on grounds of misrepresentation. You were lied to about their purpose. Duress from grief could play in too. But the forgery? That's the smoking gun. If we prove it, it's not just civil, it's criminal." We built the case meticulously. Handwriting experts confirmed the forgery. Bank records showed unauthorized access. Ethan had been careless, thinking I'd roll over. The lawsuit filing hit him like a thunderbolt. The case took a year. A long, stressful, ramen noodle year. I moved from Mike's couch to a cheap studio apartment, the kind with thin walls and flickering lights. Work kept me sane, climbing ladders, pulling wires, focusing on the tangible. But nights were hell. Depositions, discovery phases, endless paperwork. Ethan lawyered up, of course. His attorney tried to paint me as the bitter younger sibling, jealous of his success. Ethan went from confident to nervous to desperate. At first, he ignored the summons. Then the calls started. Voicemails, "Alex, this is ridiculous. Call me back." Texts, "We can settle this privately." One night, he showed up at my apartment, banging on the door. I peered through the peephole, his face flushed, eyes wild. "Let me in, Alex," he shouted. "We're brothers. Why are you doing this?" I opened the door a crack. "Brothers? You remember that now?" He paced the hallway, running hands through his hair. I was in a bad spot. Debts from work. I needed the money. But I was gonna pay you back, I swear. By forging Mom's signature. Selling our home. He deflated. It got out of hand. "Please, drop this. I'll give you half the sale money." Too late. The truth was out, and I wasn't backing down. Court days were grueling. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and tension. Sarah presented evidence like a surgeon, precise, unflinching. The judge, an older woman with sharp eyes, listened intently. Ethan's side argued technicalities, but the forgery expert's testimony sealed it. Inconsistent pressure points, mismatched loops, clearly not the decedent's hand. Ethan took the stand, sweating under the lights. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," he mumbled. But his charm cracked. The jury saw the greed beneath. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. The house sale profits, $220,000 after fees, had to be split properly. The stolen savings returned, plus penalties and interest, totaling $95,000 for me. Ethan avoided jail, but only because it was his first offense. Probation, community service, a criminal record that would haunt his sales career. His legal fees? Massive. That brand new condo he bought with the proceeds? He had to sell it at a loss to cover costs. Me? I walked out of that courtroom lighter, like a weight I'd carried for years had lifted. Sarah shook my hand. "You did good, Alex. Not everyone fights back. I didn't buy the old house back. Too many ghosts, Mom's roses wilting without her, echoes of betrayal in every room. Instead, I used my half, the half that was mine all along, as a down payment on a small place of my own. A cozy bungalow on the edge of town, with a porch swing and a kitchen where sunlight streams in. Nothing fancy. White walls I painted myself, a second-hand table where I sipped coffee each morning, watching birds in the yard. It's mine. Earned through sweat, tears, and truth. Ethan tried to apologize once, months later. He called, voice subdued. Alex, can we meet? I need to say I'm sorry. We met at a neutral coffee shop. He looked older, lines etched around his eyes. I screwed up, he said, staring into his cup. I was selfish. Scared. But I miss my brother. I listened, letting the words hang. Forgiveness isn't forgetting, it's releasing the hold anger has on you. I forgave you a long time ago, I said finally. For my sake, not yours. But I'll never trust you again. That's the price. He nodded, tears welling. We parted with an awkward hug, but I knew it was goodbye in a way. Revenge isn't always loud. It doesn't require shouts or fists. Sometimes it's just the truth, patient and relentless, catching up like a shadow at dusk. I rebuilt my life brick by brick, stronger for the cracks. And in the quiet moments, sipping coffee at my table, I think of Mom. She'd be proud, not of the fight, but of the man who emerged from it. Whole. Free.